本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It is Monday, September 16th, 2019, and you are listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 264. I'm your host, Austin Walker. Joining me this week, Rob Zachney, Patrick Klepek, the victorious Bears.
Oh, I did it.
You did it. I'm so impressed with your work yesterday. We'll talk about the NFL stuff later, but I do have to just open up with congratulations. You found a kicker. I know you both worked
Eddie
really
Money.
hard to make
people
that
are trying to figure out a nickname. Eddie Money, Eddie Dinero, which doesn't even rhyme with it's Pinheiro, so Dinero is close.
Yeah,
but not quite there.
Flat rhyme. It's Kato also here in the booth. How's everyone doing? How are your weekends besides the football stuff, which we'll talk about in the post pod? Is my understanding. My understanding that is the culture.
That's the post pod. That's the culture we've established here. Hey, being a dad by yourself for a weekend sucks.
Oh, is that what happened?
I wrote a tweet at the end of this weekend when I was finally just kind of like laying down before going to sleep, and just like, man, single parents out there, like enormous respect. I did this for 4 days. I've done it before, but it's exhausting, just emotionally, physically. You can never turn it off. Like you always have to be on, especially when the kids are younger and there's not like wiggle room, you know, like your wiggle room is like, I don't know, how long do you give them the iPad till you feel guilty about it? Because otherwise you just always have to be like doing stuff coming up with, and it's a lot. And so, I only did it for 4 days. My wife gets back today, but just shout out to people that have to do that. Like, what are you supposed to do? Complain about it? Like it's, you're just kind of stuck in a box on that stuff. It's just,
my mom did it for years. Nothing but shout outs for her. I did my best to be a good little kid, but I know I was a pain in the fucking ass.
You're also a kid. You're also you're a kid. What do you, I mean, it's only something like as an adult that you look back and go, wow, that was terrible. And I wish I had like, treated my parents better in that situation. But like, you don't know when you're a kid. So it's just like, it's one of those like thankless jobs, but it's just rough. Yeah. But my kid's good. I'm not complaining too much. It's just exhausting.
Rob, I know that you had your own rough weekend because I asked you this morning what you played, and one of the things you listed was tragedy English muffins you made. What? What's up, bud?
So, I'm always trying to make life just a little bit better, right?
Rob, can I tell you?
For the world, for
world,
me,
for all of us.
Just all around.
Even tell you something. Even when you're trying to make the world better for you, that's just making the world better for everybody. You're the vanguard of good living. You know what I mean?
Just putting that energy out there in the world.
Yeah.
So I got it in my head that
that's your first problem? Like every time we're going down a certain type of road with Rob, so sometimes when you walk for a mile and a half because it's just around the block, it's that kind of story is, I got it in my head. Like, then you just know you're ready. A certain kind of Zachney story is about to go down.
So I got this
when
idea.
He gets it in his, so I was thinking.
So I was reading Kenji Lopez Alt's cookbook, The Food Lab, and it opens on eggs and really detailed instructions, because one of the things that Kenji Lopez Alt was kind of known for is like trying to nail down scientifically the most reproducible, like ironclad methods for doing different things with food.
Gotcha.
And he's really good at it. Like in general, if you like look at, it's one of the reasons that like Serious Eats recipes tend to be kind of my reference recipes, because he's really good at pinning down like trickier stuff, but he kind of idiot proofs it, which is what I need. And the book opens on recipes for hollandaise sauce, poached eggs, and I was like, damn, I could go for that. I could go for a little eggs Benedict, make it myself at home. And then last week, I was also one evening, just to pick myself up, trawling through the Bon Appetit YouTube archives.
Like you do. Yeah, 100%.
And there's a lot of good stuff there. We've talked about it. You already know about it. But Claire Saffitz does really good videos about pastries and breads. And she did a video on English muffins, making them yourself. And boy, I gotta tell you.
Time out. I just want to say, English muffins, Rob, Rob, English muffins seem complex. I've eaten English muffins. I've never come close to making an English muffin.
Yeah.
I just want to set the bar for you internally that you know there's a lot going on in an English muffin.
Austin, this video made it seem so simple. Like, it wasn't, and this was not one of those bullshit made for YouTube videos where like upbeat music plays while some asshole with like hands just like comes into the frame, like magic some food together like from an overhead shot where it's like, oh, it's just that easy. And like without the shot ever moving, like somehow a bare white table has become a bounteous feast. This is not one of those.
Bigger than
like,
before.
She showed her work.
Right.
She explained the theory. She made those English muffins. I know it can be done. I saw it in this video.
How long is that video, just for reference?
It's like 5-6 minutes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they cut out all the time when stuff's rising. Like, they're not going to show that.
Sure.
They don't show like the truth of the matter where it's like, okay, now to clean this fucking kitchen for like the 8th freaking time today. Which is, it's a bit like making beer where it's just like, most of it is actually just managing the logistics of like cleaning your workspace and getting everything back in shape to use. Anyway, so I was convinced this is going to be easy. There's a recipe on their website for English muffins. Seemed a little stingy with the with the yeast, but you know it was going to have a long rise time, so plenty of time for that dough to develop. And the recipe has a note that's like, hey,
Phrasing.
just so you know, this dough is going to be sticky and wet, but that's how it's supposed to be.
Oh,
Okay.
And I have a history with doughs like this.
oh my God.
Rob is putting so many sticky and wet Chekhov's guns above the fireplace right now.
Just out of context, Rob Zachney.
Like, there was a time I made a brioche and lost all the hair on my right forearm.
What? Okay,
So,
we're gonna keep moving. Leave blank spaces.
the problem here is, what do you mean by sticky? This is one of those things where like a really practiced baker knows the texture and the feel of the dough you're talking about. But if you haven't worked with stuff like this before too much, or you're scared of stuff like this, I'm like, sticky has a lot of latitude, right? Like, oh, just you'll see the dough start to come together, start pulling away from the sides of the dough. And I'm like, I don't exactly know what you mean, but I like my sin in the past has been to add too much flour to make a dough come together, and then it ends up kind of clay-like and shitty. So I just kind of went with it. And there's a couple other things. I have this beautiful stand mixer that has one fatal flaw, which is that it has to be machined to a very precise specification. And if it falls out of calibration, and apparently it does that from time to time, the dough hook doesn't get low enough in the bowl. And we're talking like just millimeters here of difference. The machine is designed to prevent at all costs like metal parts from acting just on metal parts, so you don't have like the beater just like grinding against the bowl, because that's bad for everything.
Right.
So whatever, it's going to have clearance. And there's this thing called the dime test to make sure it's all calibrated correctly. Mine is just barely within acceptable calibration, but it does tend to run with a little too much clearance. But I didn't know this going in. It was only in retrospect this became clear, because I just stared at this dough and it's like, this is going to come together in 5 minutes. And it'll start pulling away from the side of the dough, but it'll be recognizable as a dough. And I'm staring at it. I'm watching the dough hook go through it. And I'm like, boy, it just looks to me like the dough hook is blessing the dough and like making the sign of the cross on it. But I don't know that it's like hooking it or kneading it. Like, it ain't moving.
Yeah.
But I just kept giving it more time. And then I start trying to help it along and steer the dough off the sides of the bowl into the path of the dough hook, like encouraging them to like, oh, mingle, make friends. And eventually, like like it does appear to be pulling away from the side of the dough. So I'm like, cool, that seems to be, don't want to overwork this baby. Like, I was told, leave it sticky and wet. So that's what I'm going to do. So I start taking it out of the bowl, and I discover there's like a substrate to the dough. Like,
There's
there was
strata?
Yes, Kato. There was a really runny like top layer. And then at the bottom, then at the bottom where the hook hadn't been getting anything, stuff had just slowly fallen together and congealed into like, you know how like if you leave a thing of dough to rise over a warm oven and it slightly cooks to the bowl, it was almost that texture.
Oh God.
And I was like, this is probably still good. I can just mix that all in together by hand. And
this is Rob and I trying to rationalize Mitchell Trubisky. It's like, oh, it's fine. You know, we'll just put it together on the next drive.
the dough was just in the wrong system. I just needed to,
Just need a couple of conviction throws, and then we'll be fine.
So I made the dough, and it has to rise overnight. And the next day, I take it out, and it doesn't look as risen as I would hope. Kind of a disappointing Easter morn, as it were. And then the dough is still so sticky that like as I'm handling it, it's just like going everywhere. It's like the start of Ghostbusters.
You made slime.
Yes.
Get Danica
like, literally,
on the
I'm just like, oh shit.
Send this to Danica's Instagram shop,
please.
And you can turn this around. This is still potentially profitable.
I don't yeast.
Yeah. So then once you shape them into little English muffin rounds, which I couldn't really do because it was too sticky, like supposed to fold it together, but it was like clay face. Like it just kept like sinking into itself. And then eventually I just gave up and I was like, those are roughly English muffin shaped. And
That's an
I guess they were. It was more like Salvador Dali's clocks, really is how they looked. And then I was like, well, those will rise. Like, gotta cover these with plastic wrap and let them do one more rise.
Persistence of
English
Rob.
muffins. And then it takes like 40 minutes to like, you gotta cook them on a griddle. And then you gotta finish baking them in the oven. And what I ended up with were fucked up pancakes, I guess is the only way I can describe it.
Oh my god.
Like, there's one that sort of looks like an English muffin, and if you sort of split it apart, you can't really use a fork because it's about as wide as a fork. But if you sort of split it apart, you can tell like there's some nooks, there's some crannies, and that's what I was here for. I was all about that nook and cranny life.
Yeah, totally. That's what
I
makes
wanted
it
to
seem
move beyond
complicated.
the Thomas English muffin bullshit.
Yeah. You want a real fucking
English muffins to the people.
Yeah.
And instead, I've got these like really nasty pancakes covered in cornmeal. And I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. Like
Bird feed.
do I make a sandwich out of them?
No, can you eat what?
Yeah.
How is it?
How edible?
Like, okay, it's not an English muffin.
I mean, it's bread.
okay.
Bad. It's like a bread pancake.
That to me feels like it's not going to be able to hold a sandwich. Is it crumbly like a pancake? You know what I mean? Like, does it fall apart?
No.
It's firmer.
Don't worry. It's plenty elastic. I might go so far as to say rubbery is its texture.
Love a little rubber in my mouth. Just
these
roll
are
it around.
Durable English muffins.
Are these weapons?
you can use them as, if you got a table that's a little bit wobbly, just put it under one of the legs.
So here's my thinking, though. What if I just didn't split them and treated each one as its own bread slice? Yeah, they're lopsided. They're not level. But, like, I could make, like, a McGriddle type thing off of that.
You know what?
Yeah, we're not, like, it's not, look, the Eggs Benedict thing, that's a different, that's gone. Like, say goodbye to that dream.
Yeah.
We're not making
But you know what? You're here for the everyman. And the Eggs Benedict at home, it's a dream. But for regular folks like us, we're going to get a cornstarch covered bread pancake. And we're going to put some bacon on there.
And call it a win.
And call it a fucking win. You made that. You did it.
You get a win however you can get it.
Yeah.
A win is a win is a win.
That's right.
And we'll be grateful for it. We can figure out what went wrong next weekend. But for now, I think we just take it.
Yeah, honestly. The fact that it's editable at all, that's a win.
Well, congratulations for both your NFL and your English muffin
Very
wins.
Can't tell if that whole story was a metaphor or not.
Me neither. God, should we talk about some video games on this podcast at least? Patrick, you've been last week. You told us you'd started to play some Link's Awakening, which is out on Switch this week. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, later this week. Yeah,
I'm excited for it. But I need you to tell me if it's right for me to be excited for it. Is it? Have you put some more time in? Are you feeling good about it?
Yeah, I'm at the. I actually made it into the final dungeon last night. The review embargo is later this week, so this is preview impressions of. It's a weird. That stuff's weird. I don't know. Basically, they just don't want you to put a score on it, and we don't do scores. So I exist perpetually in a zone where I'm okay. I think. Whoa. Sorry. Hey, it's Siri. I didn't say your name. Chill. I thought the Nintendo
must be Siri. Patrick, please read the embargo more closely.
I didn't play Link's Awakening. I'm a huge Zelda fan, but for whatever reason, never spent much time with the handheld iteration. So I've not played with the other historically good ones, Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, right? I think those are the two ones that were made in collaboration with Capcom. And there was a third one planned, but they never made it, I think was the case. And never played Link's Awakening. And so I was really excited for this because it was basically, people have wanted, they did Link Between Worlds, but it was like, oh, wow. Like for a lot of people, this is going to just be a brand new 2D Zelda that, yes, it's a remake of a game that was already released, but like for a lot of people, like myself included, it's basically like a brand new game. And that sort of has its ups and downs. One thing, this has been an issue since E3, and I mentioned on Thursday, it has performance issues. It is not a 60 frames per second lock in a way that you would probably expect or anticipate with an aesthetic that doesn't look like it's pushing a lot of processing necessarily on a machine that has a pretty weak CPU. It is not just in the outer overworld stuff where the depth of field effect or the tilt shift that it's doing to achieve a lot of its kind of miniature look, where you can imagine that being really hard on the machine. The dungeons perform better, but it is still just I'm hoping there'll be a patch, but if they haven't figured out this close to launch, and Nintendo's usually someone that kind of frame rate's not usually something you're worrying about, it makes me worry that that's just the way the game is, and it won't necessarily get better on a patch. But to sort of set up Link's Awakening, it doesn't take place in Hyrule. It's sort of like Majora's Mask in that sense, in which it's a story that takes place somewhere else. So Link is sailing and then wakes up on an island, and this island is the game makes no bones about, and Majora's Mask I think was a little similar to this. It makes no bones about the fact that hey, this is a weird island. Things are weird. Very quickly you encounter Goombas and a chain chomp.
Yeah.
And why are there Mario characters here? And the game is constantly just being isn't this a weird island? And they're yeah, I get it. And they're there's a big egg up there. Can you go wake up that egg? And it's I guess, sure. Go collect 10 instruments and wake up the egg. That seems like a normal quest objective for Link. And so I think that's a huge part of the charm of Link's Awakening is everything's just a little off and it's unanswered. I presume there is some sort of explanation by the end of the story that will put it all in some sort of context. But it's a game where everything just feels a little bit off. The characters are a little bit off. I don't know. I don't know what they've. I don't want to spoil some of the cameos because I don't know how much is from the original game. I don't know how much is different here.
Sure.
There are some. I will say there was one that genuinely made me go, "Cool. All right, sure. You're here. Welcome to this island, friend." And it's a very charming game. I like it a lot. I think you definitely the aesthetic does some work to hide that it's an older game. For example, the dungeons.
Okay.
Yeah, the dungeons, especially in the latter half of the game, they're not necessarily all that complicated, but they just throw a billion rooms at you, and you just have to do an enormous amount of backtracking. And it's a point where I was tempted to start drawing out the dungeons, even though I have a map that I can label stuff with, because there's certain limitations to the labeling system.
Wait, what is that
aren't,
like? Because I don't think that was in the original. What's the...
No, it's not. This is new. So you can do this on the overworld map, and you can do this on the dungeon level maps, in which the game gives you like 8 icons, like a circle, a square, a triangle, like a 4-leaf clover, and like you can mark those on the map, but you can't draw on the map. And what I want the game to let me do is draw on the map, because what I want to do is just like, you know, put very specific, like I want to mention that like, hey, this is a bombable area on the overworld, but I don't have bombs yet. But I don't have a bomb icon, so I just put a circle.
Right.
And you start running, if you're like labeling much things, you start running out of them. And then it was like, I got to the point where I was opening my notebook, I was writing down a symbol chart, like so that I could remember what I was marking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I made a legend that was like, okay, so the triangle means, I think that's a hook shot, and I don't have the hook shot yet. And you know, it'd be nice if I could just like, right H, or like just
honestly,
give me icons for all the equipment in the game, and let me just drag that onto the map. So those limitations are a little frustrating. So the dungeons themselves are not that aesthetically interesting. They're just like bland looking dungeons that are like full of puzzles. But if you're like me, who, as much as I loved Breath of the Wild, I missed some of like the standard dungeon stuff, which they put a little bit of that into the what do they call them? What are the little mini dungeons that you would come across?
The shrines.
Dungeonettes.
The shrines.
The dungeonettes, yeah.
The shrines. The dungeonettes.
Zelda and the dungeonettes. Love them. They're so good live.
And the shrines are like pretty contained, small, and the dungeons in that game that you were exploring on the backs of the various beasts that were floating around that world, you know, we're also small relative to like what we've come to expect, like Ocarina of Time forward for what happens in dungeons. And like this one is like an interesting balance where there's not much going on aesthetically, and even mechanically, but there's just a lot of like tricky little puzzles that are a joy to kind of like put together. So it's a game where you can feel its 90s-ness in it, for better and worse. I think the aesthetic goes a long way. I think they like I said, they did make gameplay changes, like, you know, doing the overworld map. I think they've like really increased the amount of seashells you can find. From what I looked at, I'll say it was useful to have a game where that you're reviewing, where you could like consult a walkthrough instead of like having to like track somebody down, like a friend that's playing. It's like, hey, can you like give me a tip on like what I'm missing here? Instead, it was like, yo, I could just pull up a walkthrough, and it was 100% helped me get through various dungeons. So I can't really speak to how much has changed, because I come to this basically as a new game. But I think it's incredibly charming. I'm really enjoying my time with it, and I think people are gonna have a blast, especially if you haven't played Link's Awakening, or if it's been so long that it may as well be like a brand new game for you.
That's exciting. I definitely am curious how people will receive it, given the ways in which it is like, oh wow, this is a cool different thing, but also it is a 90s game. It is from an era of game design, and it was a Game Boy game originally, so it was a game working inside of those constraints that was ambitious in ways that were not tied to big bright sprites and all the stuff that this game has in terms of like great visual design. All that is being layered on top of a core game design that was not about those things. You know, Rob, it looked like you had a question.
Yeah, and it's also go ahead, Rob.
No, I was just wondering, does the game comment on the irony of a game called Link's Awakening having a dreamlike quality?
There's a lot of references to dreams and it being weird. It does not. There's a references to maybe waking up, but I don't know where all that's going.
Does it imply that like Link himself is like a dream of the Nintendo universe? That like he awakens to the reality that is Mario World, and like when Mario dreams, he dreams himself Link.
Dang, that'd be cool. That'd be a good ending. I don't know.
So we know that
you're bullshit. I'm gonna be actually kind of mad if you just spoiled it by bullshitting and doing a bit right now.
We know, of course, that Link's Awakening is partially inspired by Twin Peaks. That was like a literal.
Have they said that the creator said that, or is that just something people have said?
The creator has said.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. I wasn't sure if that was just one of those like sort of like over time. a handful of people said it's like inspired by Twin Peaks, and then that just became like that stuck in my head too.
Yeah, Takahashi Tezuka, who was the director of Link to the Past and Link's Awakening, said Aonuma says to him, "You wanted it to be like Twin Peaks, but characters that looked like Mario and Luigi were appearing." And said you wanted to create a world inspired by Twin Peaks, and Tezuka was like, "Oh, that's right. I'm glad I said it then, because I always forget such things." We were talking about this before Iwata arrived. This is from an interview with Iwata. Also, I was talking about fashioning Link's Awakening with a feel that's somewhat like Twin Peaks. At the time, Twin Peaks was rather popular. The drama was all about a small number of characters in a small town, so I wanted to make something that like that. While it would be small enough in scope and easy to understand, it would have deep and distinctive characteristics. And that's a fun way for someone to be like, this is the way in which I'm making it like Twin Peaks. Weird small town Zelda with distinct strange characters, a sense of like foreboding weirdness, but not necessarily like all of it's not like a love letter to Twin Peaks or something, which is how sometimes that gets told.
No, which I think that's what I was sort of like trying to clarify there, was like I don't know if you'd play this and immediately like go like if you hadn't already heard that quote and it becomes sort of like part of like the historical canon of how people talk about Link's Awakening. I don't know how much you look at this and go, again, like knowing with that knowledge, it's like, this explains sort of the hyper cartoonish characterization for some of the characters who have like very distinct singular characteristics in a log lady type fashion. But I don't know that I'm going around and necessarily extracting Twin Peaks from it, but you can see from a distance where you arrive at that influence. Like where that is true is like one of the big things you're doing is swapping items between characters. You're like trying to learn about a character. What is it interested in? And then what is something I can go do in the world that would allow me to go and like accomplish that? And there is like, I guess one of the weirder things is like these games often have some form of a hint system where you can go and like pay a vendor and there'll be like a psychic that's like, maybe you should go to the Northeast Forest and something's there, And so a lot of these Zelda games have something similar to that. I think starting with like Link to the Past, and this one, it's just so. I think I don't think he's the mayor of the town, but anyway, like one of the main couples in the town. The husband is just. He has like social anxiety. And so if you go and try and talk to him in his house, he says, I don't talk in person. I only talk over the phone. Yep. And so scattered throughout Link's Awakening are huts. There's like maybe like a dozen of these little huts with like a phone etched on it. And then you go in and you pick up the phone and it's that dude. And he's like, hey, so I heard you should go check out the mysterious forest to the northeast. And maybe there's something going on over there. Or, hey, I heard something's underneath the bridge down in the bay. And you're like, oh, cool, thanks. And you hang up the phone. And he always gives you like something just specific enough to like set you off in an area, but doesn't necessarily always give you like the A to Z. Like you have to fill in a couple of the blanks. But it is like it's one of the game's better bits where you often feel like I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do next. The game is often kind of like leaving you in a lurch because it's a relatively small map compared to a Link to the Past or anything in the 3D games that are so enormous now. But it's incredibly dense. So it's like you're often coming through an area again and realizing, in a traditional Zelda fashion of, I've got a hook shot, which means I can get over here, or I've got bombs now, which means I can explore there. And so there's a lot of that. So the game wants you to do a lot of like backtracking. I found that tiresome in the dungeons to a certain point because it was just like, if I would need to get all the way to the left, which means, okay, I got to warp whistle to the front, then I got to go here. Like I'm not accomplishing anything. It's just busy work. Whereas the busy work of being on the overworld was a lot of fun because you're often finding just, I think once I can't remember which item I got, but some item that I got that suddenly was like, oh shit, 6 icons I have on my map, I can go take care of now. Nice. And like that's like just a really satisfying feeling where you can loop back around to all that stuff. And Link's Awakening is really good at that because of like the density of the map, which you can, if you didn't have all the obstacles that are trying to like barrier you off and force you to like warp around, you could run across it in like a minute. Like it really isn't like all that big. But there's a lot going on it, and there's a lot of fun characters and weirdness. And it's also one of the games that you can just like not find certain items. Like, you don't
like exploration
necessarily
items, like things like the hook shot, or
there's certain things that like you'll get for sure, right? Like you'll get like the hook shot you get. But the bow and arrow, never required. It's just an item in a shop. Right. It's like cool.
Right.
It's really expensive. You can't afford it unless you were to grind or just naturally you'll accrue. It's
you can fucking steal it.
You can't steal it.
So
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like when I got stuck at some point, I was looking at like an equipment list and a walkthrough, and then I saw the bow and arrow, and like, you can steal it. And I was like, well, no, I can't. Now I looked it up in a walkthrough. Now I just got to earn that shit. That feels that was a bridge too far for me. It was like,
what happens?
That was clearly supposed.
Oh, it's like a whole
consequences
thing.
Are there?
It renames your save. Well, so I don't know if I don't know here, but in the original Link's Awakening, so it's like 1,000 rupees or something ridiculous, right?
It's a lot. It's like, and at the point that you're at in the game, it's like you've maybe just you just got enough to spend $200 on. I can't remember what you were buying, like a heart piece, and then it's like 900 rupees is, and it's just like the game doesn't drop a lot of rupees, so like that's a long ways away in terms of collecting.
So it is the way it's set up. And I did this at the E3 demo to see if it worked, and it did. And there's like a shopkeeper who's in the middle of the room, and their items are at the top end, I want to say.
Yeah, like against the wall, kind of.
Yeah. He always keeps his eyes on you. He tries to always keep his eyes on you, so he turns with you. But you can kind of, not dizzy him, but you can kind of like get out of his view if you're careful. Grab it, which means like if he's looking at you, he'll tell you, oh, that's 900, whatever. But if you are, or is it like you can't leave the room if he sees you, if you have it in your hands? I think that's sort of the thing. You pick it up, and if you get to the door without him seeing you, you can just leave. When that happens in the original game, it the Link's name becomes Thief, and everyone calls him Thief for the rest of the game. And if you try to re-enter the shop, the owner will hit you with like magic that kills you. So you're closing yourself off to the shop, I believe.
Yeah.
And then I want to say the save files is also called Thief at that point, because that's where it's getting Link's name from. And then and now looking this up, the DX version, the re-release of it that came out for
Game Boy Color,
right? Yeah, GBC. The photographer, who was a new character in the Game Boy Color version, takes a photo of the moment that you sneak out of the shop, which is like, here's you being a fucking thief, but you need to do that if you want all the photos in the game. If you want to get a complete photo album, that is one of the photos. So brilliant. Completionists,
that sounds like it's intended play then.
It's intended in the sense that like they knew you were going to do it. They've accounted for it, but it's not a thing that ever really happens in Zelda games. The idea of like,
no,
I'm going to manipulate a character to steal from them.
Yeah.
Well, you never can get away with
opening
it. Like,
chests, right.
There's like, opportunities where you could try and slip, but the game is always like, no, you can't do that. Like, it's what was unique about Link's Awakening was that it allowed you to succeed and then had like a plan B for how it treats the character, which playing through Link's Awakening and reading about stuff like that, it's like, oh, there are so many Easter eggs that I will just have to look up after the facts. I know this game is full of stuff like that, where you can get the game will do strange things if you do strange things, in response to it, but they aren't necessarily like, the reason I didn't think to steal it was because, you can't steal shit in Zelda games. One, Link is a good boy and he wouldn't do that. Two, the game would prevent me from doing it even if I was goofing off. And so the fact that the game accounts for that, there's a lot of like remixing of mechanics or like acknowledging sort of like series conventions in Link's Awakening in a way that's like, it's not a full twist on it, but there are like moments like that are very cute and endearing and representative of the game's style as a whole.
Just to be clear, I've stolen
it's encouragement toward revolution. Like you should take that thing and place yourself beyond law in society. People will try to brand you, but you needed it. And it was placed far beyond your reach. And well beyond your means, but nevertheless, it was necessary.
Look, there are these.
Who's the
green
thief, Patrick?
Yeah,
Right.
You know,
Who's the real
there are
thief?
these green.
Where did he get that from?
Right.
True.
Probably like you, he killed
egg,
someone else
probably.
and took it from them. That's probably it. Because let me be clear, I've stolen a lot of things in the worlds of Zelda.
When Link's on a boat, he's coming off some other adventure. He has a bow and arrow. Whose bow and arrow do you think that is?
Oh, you're right. You think it was like a shipwreck? Because that game
What
was the
happens to the other
shipwreck.
links?
What happens
Yeah.
to the other
and you
links?
find your sword on the beach to start, but I don't know about
That
the
guy
rest of
fucking
his bow.
stole your bow.
Yeah.
Wow. I was
Damn.
going to talk about the way that the social is predicated on its exclusions and the ways in which, all private property is, of course, a fabrication of those in power. But you're right. That was my fucking bow. Give me my bow back.
Okay, I feel that's a counter-revolutionary position now.
Give me my bow back. But give me my
Why does that shopkeeper have so many shields? My shield.
Your
'Cause
shield.
You can lose your shield. You can lose your shield in this game, and then that shopkeeper just has another shield for you to buy with your, the Hyrule insignia. Yeah, you know what? I should have stolen that. Now I want my rupees back.
They will take what you earned and sell it back to you at an extortionate rate.
Yeah.
And if you balk at it, they will call you thief.
100%. And take photos of you because of
Hey, speaking
the
of
surveillance
exploration,
state.
just quick thing that I've been into this weekend. So I'm done with I don't have all my powers, but I'm playing more Control.
Okay.
And I'm in the just explore shit in the oldest house, and there's a puzzle that I'm putting off. There's a synchronicity lab, and you go through into a mirror universe, and there's all these what do you call those? The swinging bearings, motion,
pendulums?
motion. Yeah. Those bearing.
Oh, I know what
pendulums.
you mean. Like the bearing ball, like the four, like the click to click.
Newtonian.
Bunk, bunk, bunk.
Newton.
Yeah.
Newtonian physics.
Well,
desk
everything's
toys.
Newtonian. Well, not everything.
No, not
is
everything's
Newtonian, but everything you
Newtonian.
and I are going to interact with
Yeah.
is basically Newtonian.
Well, depends on how you define interaction, but basically.
Yeah. But there's a puzzle that clearly there's a connection between what's happening in the mirror universe versus what's happening in the real universe. And I need to dig into that at some point. I don't want to look it up, but I'm because it's also just going to be a pain in the ass to solve. But there's so much cool stuff in the oldest house. You guys looked around this place?
Not as much as I
Have you heard of this?
I need
Have
to
you
do
seen
some more
this?
looking around.
They're called Newton's cradles, by the way.
Newton's cradles.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Love it. What a good name. There was this puzzle. This isn't a huge spoiler. There's a point where they send you back to dead letters to go rank. The dude who runs the containment level has all these objects that have busted out of their cells during the Hiss invasion, and you get post-game quests hey, could you go corral the rubber duck? Could you go find this object? It's on the loose. Okay, actually the rubber duck was probably my fault because I went into a secret area and opened the door to the rubber duck, and
great.
then it's scarpered.
Wait, is the rubber duck the object where you can find the voice memo of someone doing all the weird experiments to it? And I was just okay.
Quack?
right, that
Quack, quack.
what we need to make clear is it's this little voice memo where someone's all right, performing test number 42B, interacting with duck object with a stick, no response to stimuli. Experiment 42C will now proceed to speak quack to the duck. Quack, quack, quack. No response. Further testing needed. And it was just I remember immediately messaging Rob and being okay, game of the
that's
year.
good.
Got it. Nailed it.
Rubber ducks is one of those on the list of iconographic items that shouldn't be allowed into the house itself at the very beginning too. That's
Any
so
sort
good.
of archetypal object
Yeah.
can't be. Oh, it's delicious. But there's this question where they send you into dead letters, where it's a lot like the Museum of Jurassic Technology, I guess, has an exhibit of weird letters people sent the Griffith Observatory at one point. But dead letters is where people who maybe have had an interaction with the collective unconscious are sending their letters in to, hey, here's some weird stuff that's happening to me. But there's a quest that sends.
Well, I would just say, from what I understood, it was literally letters that never reached the destination, and amongst those were the ones that they were trying
Yeah.
to get to the oldest house but didn't have an address for.
Yeah, there's people like asking for help about weird stuff they've seen. There's one intended for the psychiatrist professional association asking about a recurring dream. But you go into the dead letters area to do this quest, and if you have your like full levitation powers, there's new areas to dead letters you can get to. And have you guys been above dead letters?
I have not.
No.
I don't think
It's
I have.
astonishing.
I can't fly yet.
Is it just, can you give me like an abstract without spoiling specifics, without without talking about the specifics? I would love to see it myself. What is the broad picture here?
It's like you fly above almost like it's like you fly above the entire dead letters department into another section of the department that is just high up in the oldest house, and it feels like you're at the ceiling. And there's all those letters just kind of floating around in dead letters. They just kind of are like snowfall almost. You get to the top and you see them falling through the skylight of the oldest house in this like never-ending curtain of like gentle rain. It is incredibly gorgeous, and also maybe one of the eeriest things I've seen in the game, because like you're just up there now in this sort of null space. You're like by all these desks with bankers lights on them and everything, but there's no accessible way up there. People work there, but there is no visible, like how would anyone ever have gotten up here?
Right.
Good.
And then all the misguided letters in the world are slowly falling two by two, basically, from the sky into the oldest house. And I'm like, damn, I love this game. I love the weird shit I'm still finding here.
I really wanted to play more over the weekend because it sounds so great, and I couldn't because I had to visit a snake.
You had to hang out with a snake.
You had to
I
hang
had
out
to
with a
hang out with a
snake.
snake.
That's
What?
This is not your way of saying you played Metal Gear instead.
No.
Okay.
No. Just friend got a new pet snake, little tiny hognose,
Hell yeah.
and so
And
also
a
there was
baby
another
snake? Is it like a baby hognose?
yeah, it's like pretty young.
Okay.
How big does it get?
They only get like a foot to a foot and a half long, really. Like they stay kind of small on the smaller end, but like this one was so small that curled up, it fit in the palm of my hand. It was only like, I don't know, like 6 inches long total, probably. It was adorable.
Yeah. Hognose snakes are really cute.
They're so cute. They got a little funny nose.
That's hognose. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Nice. Did you do anything else this week? Did you play any other games?
For a minute, I played a deck building roguelike.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
shit.
interesting. Wow. Welcome to Kato Corner.
Listen, no, okay. Look, I'm going to just cover them for a second.
Great.
Look at me, Kato.
Yeah.
I care.
Yeah.
Was it
Thank
good?
you. Yeah, it was fun. It was really interesting because you're basically set up as like a kind of dungeon crawl situation.
Wait, what's it called? You didn't.
Yeah, sorry.
okay.
It's called-
Unheard of.
I don't know.
It's a deck building roguelike, Austin. What else the fuck do you need to know?
It's called Meteorfall, Krummit's Tale, because this is actually a sequel to an iOS game.
Okay.
Um,
that I never played.
Krummets?
Crummets.
Yeah.
CRM.
No, Krumit.
Okay.
Apostrophe.
Tail.
S.
Oh, Krummets. Krummets just seems like a thing you say when you stub your tongue.
I think Krummets is the name
Krummets.
of the food that Rob made at the top of this podcast. Just made a nice pile of Krummets.
Yeah, baking
Wow.
some Krummets.
You hurt the way Rob moved
mean-
after you
I
said
didn't
that.
know it
You
hurt.
like actually that like there are Rob once where he rolls his eyes. He just kind of shifts in his seat. That one was like a full like moved his back. Like it hurt. Like
I'm sorry, Rob.
an object of you used
I
an
love
object
you.
of power on
I did not.
Rob right
it
now.
was not meant as an insult. I just thought it was a funny word. I'm sorry.
Actually, Rob, if we imbue
no,
the Krummets
Rob,
with enough.
leave it.
Oh, he put his hands off. He's leaving.
Please
Rob's gonna pour himself a drink.
Bring me
This happens sometimes on the
bring me
podcast.
some Krummets.
Love a Krumit right now.
I'd love to eat a Krummet. It's a singular Krummets.
Yeah.
Multiple
Krummets.
Krummetses. Like a Charles Dickens character.
a flock of Krummets.
Yeah. Good day, sir. It's
I'm
me.
sending you a picture of my Krummets, and you're gonna tell me how beautiful they are.
Oh, wow. Rob, you know,
If there's one thing I've learned from Claire Savitz, it's that you deserve praise for your efforts, and by God, people are gonna fucking give them to you. I don't care how busy you are, Adam Rappaport. You are going to praise me, you son of a bitch.
Wow. Let's get Rob his participation trophy. Here we go.
Oh my God.
I mean, the way control works is that if you believe a thing has power, it gains power.
Yeah.
So we can give this Krummets power.
I think, listen, within the year, we're going to have motherfuckers baking their own Krummets. This is going to have hipster Krummet shops opening up in Bushwick.
Remedy. So you're making DLC.
Uh-huh.
Anything can be an object of power. Is there any, if you're out there listening to this podcast, could you please get Rob to record some sort of voice memo interacting, talking to his sticky Krummets in order...
Well, they're not sticky anyway. Do you have a visual aid to see what I spent my weekend making?
I'm going to take a... Where is this?
You post it?
Is it in the... Is it in... Where,
in podcast?
We'll have
Yeah.
to link this somewhere.
You know
On
what?
the pod post.
Those look like bricks of cheese.
I can see...
There is a Saganaki quality to a couple of them, yes.
If I only look at the middle of one of them, I'm like, oh, that's a nice biscuit. Maybe not an English muffin, but like a
It
solid
almost
biscuit.
looks like a narepo or a pupusa at the same time.
But they do that bottom right one is cheese that's been like just like charred a little bit for sure. The thing that's wild to me is how different they look from each other, Rob. The one at the top left is almost a pita. It's almost like
there's a couple things happening. I threw out the first ones.
You know what? First row, second one.
Top row, top second. That's an English muffin.
That's an English muffin.
That's an English muffin.
That is an English muffin, surrounded by crumb.
You threw out the first set. This is not the first set. This is the second set that you're showing us.
So actually, there's a number of different sets there. But the first two I made got thrown out because they were beautiful in their way, but they weren't what I was going for.
Gotcha.
And
not like this.
It just didn't. Yeah, they didn't quite seem like if you're gonna eat an English muffin type thing. The first two things I made weren't even close enough in the ballpark.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there's some different cooking times and different pans represented there. Weirdly, the things not done in the cast iron worked out better.
Huh.
But
Okay. Interesting. I trust a nice cast iron. I like your countertop, by the way. It's nice.
oh, thank you.
Anyways,
Yeah,
Krummet's tail.
Krummet's tail.
Yeah, it's neat. It's like set
So
up.
you're in a dungeon.
You're set up
And you got
each.
cards.
There's like how do I describe this? I guess each it's broken up into dungeons, and each dungeon essentially is a 3x3 grid with different enemies and items in it. And basically, whenever you click on an enemy, you do this little you have this little combat mode. You can weapons and armor both have they degrade, so you only have a certain amount of uses on them. Once you defeat and take out a square from this grid, everything in that row drops down, and certain different abilities can trigger on things as they fall. Time progresses, so if you have a certain I had a skill that would give every enemy as they entered the board poison, and then every time something dropped, the poison would tick up. So there's like a lot of interesting things you can do with setup for like how to kind of, and each time the board drops, something new will drop in from the top as well. Like you'll see there's like a number of there's still like 6 enemies off the board, so like that there's still going to be more things coming in. But the idea is you go through and you clear all the enemies, and then you finish that dungeon. So the interesting part is that there's a lot of things about positioning, and like there were certain enemies that if they hit the bottom row, they would deal damage to me before we even started fighting.
Gotcha.
Things like that. It's an early alpha, so there was like a few hiccups where some things didn't clear off the board correctly, but like
So it's like a
seems
real alpha.
Yeah,
It's not an alpha in
No,
the
no.
marketing sense. This is a Meteorfall game. I didn't realize a game.
Right.
So Slothworks is the name of the developer. Meteorfall is like a fantastic mobile.
Yeah, this is the sequel to that.
I had
mobile
not
game.
put that together in my head. People should check out Meteorfall on phones.
Yeah,
It's
I think
really
I'm
good.
gonna go do that while they figure out the kinks in this one. But this one seems very interesting. So
Totally.
excited to play it when it is a little more polished.
I also briefly played a deck builder, though I don't know if it's I don't know if it's a roguelike deck builder. I guess it you know, it seems so narrative that it felt like almost like an adventure game or like a narrative,
Right.
Like a visual novel, but with some.
I would be curious to because so we should say
We should
what
explain
it
what
is.
it is. This game coming out called Signs of the Sojourner, who is that is a game being, I forget the name of the team. But there's some narrative design from Kevin Snow, who I guess disclosure is someone who I'm friends with, who I've gotten dinner with once, right? But I hadn't played it until today. It is God, how to set it up? I guess like narratively, the setup is you start off as a kid, you get into an argument with like your sibling. And then it kind of and then you kind of like your mom shows up and your mom was like, hey, we can work out our differences. And it gives you this very basic card mechanic, which I'll get to in a bit. And then it flashes forward and it's like, hey, well, mom died. We're all recovered from the funeral. And it's time for you to go out in the world and start getting stuff to bring back home to sell in our shop, because mom had this shop and we're taking the shop over together, and it's your job to do what she used to do, which is like explore the world as like almost like a sort of an adventurer, find cool stuff and bring it home. And the kind of card mechanic is all about conversations. There's at the top of the screen kind of 6 icons, or I guess 6 not icons, like slots. There's one at the far left, and then there's kind of 5 more next to it. And in your hand are cards, and each card so far has a symbol on the left-hand side and a symbol on the right-hand side. What you're doing is building a chain from the left of that set of slots to the right. So the top left card might be a circle and then a triangle. You need to put down something that has a triangle so that it matches the triangle on the right side of the card to your left, and then you're setting up a connection on the right side. You and then your opponent or your partner, it does a really interesting thing around like the person you're playing this game with have to build these chains that represent you trying to talk through something with them. So like the first thing is like a fight with your sibling. Then pretty early on, another one is like I talked to like a nut vendor, a guy who sells nuts, and it's like, can I get a good deal on some fucking nuts here? The symbols mean something like thematically. The circles are like it's really reductive to be like one of these is emotion, one of these is logic, but that seems to be the gesture there, kind of. One of them is about empathy, and one of them is about kind of reasoning. So the circle is about emotion, and the triangle is about reasoning. And whichever one there is more of when you complete the conversation shades the conversation that follows it, right? So that might be like, oh, hey, I'm getting a good deal or something. Rob?
At every step, like, do you have to wait until this sort of what sounds a bit like a dominoes game almost?
Yeah, it is like
wraps
it is.
up.
Yeah.
For you to hear how the conversation turned out, or is it a step by step like? I play card, character says something, and we see like it feels like an evolving convo.
It is exactly that. And the thing to know is, one, if you can't make the connection, or if the person you're playing with can't make the connection, that's like the conversation turns a little bit sour. And it's almost as if a conversation has like
the Shinji Gambit.
Yes, exactly. There are like, if you get 3 wins, if you get 3 like positive outcomes, that will end the conversation positively. If you get 3 negative outcomes, that will end the conversation negatively. It seems as if the conversation even knows when you've gotten a mix of them, and it certainly knows, it's tracking how much of one of the 2 symbols you use the most. So one of the first conversations we got into, at first, like, Kyle and I were playing this morning, and we were kind of showing it, Kyle was sitting next to me, we were playing it together, and we're like, okay, this seems okay, I guess. And then one of the first conversations we got into after we left our hometown was with this like candy seller that our mom knew. And it was like, the conversation with her was going okay at first. And then it kind of took this turn that was like, I was getting victories, but they were like the more distant logic victories because of the way the cards were coming out. I don't know. You start to get different card powers. It isn't just this matching game. You can get a card that you can like play in between previously played cards. You can get a card that duplicates the previous card that was played. You can get a card that there's a thing of like if you put duplicates down one after the other, you get a shield that protects you from a misplay. So like if you're like really in the flow of the conversation. But that conversation with this candy seller ended up losing a lot of the like deep emotional empathetic feel and took on this character that was like hands off and like a little like, oh yeah, you're your mom's kid, and less like, oh, I'm so sorry, I heard blah blah blah. And I left it feeling like, oh, that didn't go the way I wanted it to go.
Yeah.
And that was not what I expected 20 minutes into this game. Do you know what I mean? Like I very much, especially because the mechanics seemed so simple, that I didn't expect that it would hit me in that sense of like, oh yeah, I've had this conversation where I don't have the words, or we're like firing past each other a little bit. And there was one after that where there was a guy who was like, hey, could we stop at this place? And all I needed was two victories, two successful conversational flows with him.
Yeah.
Got the first one, and then going into the second one, he didn't have a connection to the thing I played, the thing that was like the beginning of the next chain, and he failed it and immediately failed. And he was like, you know what, I'll just go on my own. I was like, fuck. And I don't know if that's scripted. That could have been a scripted thing. That's the thing. Like I don't know enough about. I'm not far enough into the game. I haven't done like a new playthrough to see if that could go a different way. But I'm really curious about it. It has such a cool vibe. The character designs are all really like bright and colorful. The world is like fantasy modernity. Like I'm definitely some sort of cat person or something.
Right.
And people have like, it reminds me of his Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor a little bit. If people remember that game that I love, bright colors, lots of like characters with really cool hair. And it's neat. It's neat to see one of these that is not basically I'm casting Fireball. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that said, I heard Slay the Spire has an alpha with a new character that I want to go play. So.
Oh yeah,
That's
the
what I've
monk.
Heard. Some sort of monk.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Like
I'm
different
looking into it.
stances.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
I need to get into it.
I also played some Zone of the Enders. It's the second run of Mars. I just went back and played like 4 hours of Zone of the Enders 2. I don't know.
Where?
I was thinking about Kojima.
Did you play that in VR? I heard
didn't-
that game was pretty cool in VR.
I did not play it in VR because I was playing it on PC where I don't have a VR headset.
I don't think it's in VR on PC. I think that might be.
No, they
PS
added
VR.
it. They did add it. They did.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is because I looked at I was like, oh, wow, that would be cool. I don't have a VR headset on this computer.
Never
So
played those games.
that localization is way worse than I remember it. It's very funny. Like, there are sequences where you can feel that it's the first draft. I mean, I don't know that it's the first draft, but it has that vibe of like, these are just the words. That's not what that means really. Or like it's clear that like the direction of the voice acting does not actually mean they couldn't get the thing out of the character. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a bit here where it's like, there's a bit where at one point someone says like, this organization's war potential is very strong. Like, war potential?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, those are probably the kanji. The kanji is probably war and potential. But what you were supposed to say is like battle strength or something that sounds like a thing I would have heard once in English. And it's fine. Like, and that game is still pretty fun. Zipping around in that mech is good. There's the Vic Viper from the was it Radius? What's Gradius? Which is the Vic Viper from? Which
That sounds.
I think that's from
not our type.
Yeah, it's Gradius.
Gradius is Konami,
it's Gradius,
right?
Yeah. From Gradius is just in that game as a transforming mech, which is cool. And it has some fun moments. So I put some time into that for some fucking reason. It's because I'm excited about mechs in a real way right now because of Deus Ex Machina and because of announcing the next Friends at the Table season is going to be another mech season. So
Hell yeah.
That's where my head is.
Max.
We take a break before we do anything else. I don't know how much else we have, but I got some questions, so maybe I'll pull some of those up.
I played a little Borderlands.
Okay, we talk about Borderlands.
I'm
We're going to take a break, and then we'll come back. We'll talk some Borderlands. I'll save my comments. So, BRB. All right, we're back. Patrick, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Here's what I can...
Finally.
You know what? I've been biting my tongue for too long.
You know, I can't... That's what people constantly say about you.
Yeah, Austin, he doesn't talk. He doesn't speak his mind enough.
He hides his light under a bushel.
Never shares anything with the world.
God. So I have mostly seen people dunking on the humor of this game. And then I've seen a small contingent of people. I think this represents just like who I follow on Twitter. Is like I've seen a lot of people excited about how bad it is in terms of its writing and pointing out bad jokes and sharing things that are just like corny as shit or hyper-referential or whatever. And then I've seen a few people being like, one, this has always been this series and I like it despite this. Two, I think it's funny actually. Three, let me have the thing that I really like because I haven't had one of these in a few years. And then somewhere in the mix is also...
It's been like 5 years since the...
Totally, yeah,
especially
sure.
if you don't count pre-sequel as like a...
Right.
I know it was an official one, but it wasn't made by Gearbox.
Well, and I think part of it too, the other thing that I've seen is these are people who, I think there was an assumption on a lot of people's part that was like, oh, and then that audience went on to play Destiny or other shooters. But there is an audience for whom that is not what they want. What they want is Borderlands. So I'm curious for you. I don't know where you fall in that spectrum of things. I'm curious what your experience of Borderlands 3 has been so far.
Well, so winding the clock all the way back, the first time I saw Borderlands was at I think it was the first E3 where they were like showing off BioShock and stuff like that. I had an appointment with 2K, and I don't think I saw BioShock. I think that went to like some other writer. I don't know what I was doing. Maybe I was with Giant Bomb. I don't know. It was with G4, I think. So I saw Borderlands before they did the art revamp. So people think of like it's hard to like pull Borderlands away from like its distinctive art style, which seems less distinctive now. But at the time, it was like not very common in video games to have something sort of like that style, cartoonish. It was like very vibrant and different than what you were seeing in a lot of like gritty video games. And that game was not developed with that in mind. They changed that art pretty significantly through development. Like the whole pitch of Borderlands to start was, what if a game with 1 million guns? Like that was their whole hook, was like, it's a sci-fi shooter, gritty, real, semi-realistic look and 1 billion guns. And so like I saw that version of the game prior to them changing the art. Don't remember a thing about it, except for the gun part. So like their PR message stuck. But like I don't know why I never played these games. Most big franchises at some point I like dip in and like see what I think of it. And I think I played like a little bit of the original Borderlands, but I like just not very much. And so I will say like the kind of like narrative that has taken hold about this game in certain circles, I do feel like it has become trendy and fun to dunk on this game's writing in a way that feels not necessarily in concert with the way we treat like most other games. It's like it's popular and it's cool to say Borderlands writing is shitty. And so then you get a lot of people looking for any excuse to poke at Borderlands writing and say it's shitty. So I think that is happening here to some degree. It's
as a question though, is the writing also shitty?
So I don't know because I wasn't listening to anything while I was playing it. I was playing. So the reason I wanted to play 3. So let me explain. Though. It's not because I was ignoring it.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of my really good friends, he's got a couple franchises that are just like he's obsessed with, and Borderlands is one of them. Like has played each of the games like a bunch of different times. Like we'll play them again just because. I'll just play Borderlands again. Like that like level of just like pure like just love for this specific type of shooter. Doesn't play Destiny, like despite there other being loot sort of thing. And it really has nothing, way less to do with the humor in the world. He just like likes the loop of the game so much and the randomness of the guns. So like I was like, okay, I want to play this with you. Like I want to co-op it with you, and we'll like kind of jump in as each of us starts going through the game. So like as a result of that, when you play a co-op game where you're like talking a lot with someone, I wasn't really listening to the NPCs. It would be like you'd go up to someone, they'd give us the goal, and I was usually when they were speaking, I was more focused on like filtering through all the trash the game was giving me. Because like I'm like I don't play a ton of like loot-based games, but like, man, in Borderlands, like every 5 steps, it feels like, cool, I need a second. Like I need to funnel through like everything that I have, whether to sell it or to dump it. Like you're just constantly doing inventory churn in the game to the point where I just wasn't, I meant last night to sit down with the game for like 90 minutes and be like, oh, I should actually like pay attention to some of the writing and characters and like see if I have any response to it. Like, is it purely, can I validate my theory that it's not particularly great writing, but people are just being like obnoxious about it because it's a fun thing to dunk on? Or is it really that bad and it's like worthy of people sort of like taking it to task to that degree? And instead, moment I got my daughter to bed, like I was exhausted and like turned it on and like just did not have the energy to get through it. But like the way I played it, I think is how maybe like a lot of people play it is my sense is that it's just noise. It's white noise. Like it's just there. Like I think maybe critics focus on it more because we tend to focus on that stuff more. But I think there's a certain segment of the audience that like that's just Borderlands, man. Like that's just what it is for better or worse, and for worse for people who want like stuff that's maybe genuinely funny or subversive. But I don't know that Borderlands has ever pitched itself as being that. It has always been low-hanging fruit and a very mainstream approach to comedy that and I'm not even necessarily trying to defend it as much as like that is what it is. And I don't know that Borderlands 3, like Borderlands 2, what was the whole thing? Like, it's so many memes from Reddit. Right? Like that was the way that people talked about that game. So
right, but I think that the people who wrote that game thought that game was funny.
Sure, who cares if they think it's funny? Like it's like the intention, their intention, like I'm less interested in than the response of like the mass audience of players and how they're responding to it, because it's going to make more sense that Gearbox gears it to them rather than like the high-minded critics that want like better from their low-hanging fruit jokes. I just think it's it feels disproportionate for what the game is attempting to do or wants to do, that I don't think it matters that much, because in playing the game for 3 hours, like I was way more interested in like the perks in my weapon and just like getting through a dungeon. I just didn't care. I just wasn't paying attention to the writing at all, because I don't think the game centers it that much. But I do know that people who are saying like, if you are playing by yourself, like I can see why that would be different, because you are then forced to focus on the audio design in a way that I can imagine, if the writing is particularly grating to you, that it's going to surface it, because it's more top heavy because you are interacting with it more. Whereas like I'm sitting and like bullshitting with my friend while we're shooting, and it's just we're not paying attention to the dialogue that much.
Or you could get the item that has perks that seem to be references about the stuff with Randy Pitchford and the allegations around the USB drive filled with underage pornography, and his response to that around how it was actually just porn of what he called a magic trick. Did you see that going around, Patrick?
I did. Okay. And that also makes me wonder if like some of this is like people don't like Randy Pitchford, and plenty of reasons to not like Randy Pitchford. Plenty of reasons. Like plenty of legitimate grievances, and I can imagine it must be frustrating to be on that development team to have someone like him constantly centering themselves in the worst possible way around this game. But it does also seem like people have an axe to grind with Randy again. Like
good reasons,
but the way the axe is being grinded is against a game that like Lord knows how much influence he actually has over its creative development, and so like it does feel like there's a little bit of like, cool, Randy, fuck you, and we're gonna fuck you by like focusing in on like dialogue, you know, like little descriptors for weapons. I just feel it's disproportionate and feels like people have an axe to grind against Randy, and maybe is not commiserate with the game and its own, you know, inadequacies.
But then again, you haven't listened to the game very much. But I think there's an element of, I think we're to varying degrees, a lot of us are probably guilty of this, where there's this moment where we realize we don't like somebody, and those reasons can be very good. Sometimes they can be very petty, but sometimes they're entirely justified. But it almost doesn't matter the magnitude. We just decide, like, at some point, we're fucking done with this person. But then the other thing that a lot of happens is we don't even want to admit we liked or ever bought into what they were putting out there, right? Like, not only do I not like this person anymore, actually, now that I think of it, the thing they're known for always sucked. That was always bad. And if you really think about it, we've known it all along. And I think there's some of that happening with Pitchford. And sometimes also, though, there's a lot of truth to that, right? Like sometimes you learn more about somebody and what's animating them, and you look at their like creative output or their body of work in public, and you realize like, shit, there were always kind of these signs.
Yeah.
In this case, they were bad jokes. Like that's the thing that's tough is like, my suspicion is I would not be able to get through 2 hours of this game because I know how I play games, which is even when I'm playing with other people, I have the sound on, I'm groaning at jokes, I'm being like, wow, that was a really cool narrative beat. That was like, I'm the person who's like, no, wait, don't skip the cutscene. The cutscene is playing. I'm that fucking person, even with a game like this. And so my suspicion is I would find a lot here to personally dunk on, even if my Twitter feed isn't a collection of those jokes. But I do. It is that thing of like, this person's a shithead, and now retroactively, this is my excuse to be in on. I don't know. Like, there's a degree to which I stopped giving a fuck, I guess, in terms of like wanting to rally to the defense, but I guess I'm also not always super eager to pile on in those moments, because I know that what I really want to be doing is just pointing again at these specific instances of shittiness, and I think I am happy to just do that, you know.
I guess that's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, it seems like the fire is disproportionately focused at Borderlands because people are looking or itching for a reason to knock on Pitchford, which is valid. And so Borderlands being out and then having, you know, and it seems many instances like some, you know, like easy things to pick at, like becomes like fodder.
Flip side though is, to a degree, this feels a little bit like I don't know. This is the thing that does drive me a little bit crazy in the discourse and the loops we get into, where there's sort of the first reaction, people observe a phenomenon, but a lot of people are observing it, so it seems deafening. Yes. Like suddenly, oh, I guess it's the cool thing now is to not like Borderlands anymore. And so then you have this sort of contrarian take, which is, no, I have the appropriate level of disdain for this writing. The writing is very bad, but me, brain genius, sees that it's always been this mediocre, and you're just trying to stunt on this game because you have other motives here that really don't belong, that are being disproportionate, to use that word, disproportionately focused on this particular incidence of it. And I think at that point you're trying to assess people's motives in terms of having probably what began as an organic reaction. And I want to be wary of that too, because this is kind of how we got to what we talked about last week, where there was this idea that, you know, if you really think about PewDiePie, actually he's reaching a new audience. He's very funny. I think it's just these media types who don't like what he's doing and don't like his act. And there was kind of this self-conscious, like, it's gone too far, but I'm going to impose some good sense on this conversation about how people react to the guy who makes rape jokes in his YouTube videos. And in retrospect, that person ends up looking dumb too. Like, like the loops we get into with just the way these conversations happen online, I think the conversation always ends up being about the conversation and not necessarily the subject, in a way that feels really cloying. Mm-hmm. The point I do want to make here, by the way, just this is also if you count the Telltale adventures, we've been to this song and dance a number of times in terms of humor. This is
although those were apparently really well.
I really liked
the
one of those that I played through. That actually felt like, wow, this is the Borderlands I wish I'd had the whole time.
And also I do want to be clear, like, this is not my hill to die on. Like, I was sort of like
you were responding to a thing
yeah, like no emotional investment in Borderlands. I mostly just like, I have a friend who doesn't call me enough, and so I was like, fine, I'll play the fucking video game that you play all the time, even though you live around the corner, and so maybe then we can chat more often because you work a lot and you don't have a lot of free time. So I'm gonna get into you through Borderlands.
Well, I like how you save that castigation of your friend to be like, but I appreciate your valid reasons for blowing me off and us not being in touch anymore. I'm a dad, I get it. But this is like we've been to this dog and pony show a few times now, and something that hit me when I watched some of the trailers for Borderlands is there's always been something I found a little bit unctuous or simpering about the game, and that it so badly wants you to be having a good time.
Yeah.
It so badly wants this to feel like just the wackiest, goofiest, fun shit we could possibly be doing. And when you're doing that and adhering to a formula for the third, fourth time with a game like this, I think there is a point where maybe this stuff just lands differently. Maybe the fourth time you hear this kind of humor and this kind of joke and this kind of game, there's a point that you just sort of hit that point where you realize, like, no, this is just all, to your point, Patrick, it's all background noise. It's white noise. This is the sound that Borderlands makes. And the sound it makes is slightly grating humor at this point that's desperate to convince you that we're all just having a good time here in the Skinner box.
It's a comedy that's in its seventh season. And it's like, we just got to wrap it up. Like, it's like
Yes.
after Steve Carell left The Office, it's like, cool, let's just keep going. And like, it's fine. Like, we've got the formula. Like, we'll just do this. And it's just like, nah, that should have been the sign. Like, and this happens to all sorts of, especially American comedies where they're trying to eke out to getting the syndication payout. And so they just go for way too long until they just completely run out of steam. And Borderlands 3 feels that way, where like the try-hard nature of 1 and 2, on some level, like it was owning that, and it felt maybe even earnest to a certain degree. Whereas like it was aware that it was being try-hard. And in 3, and maybe, like the meme stuff, like almost plays into that, where it's like, yeah, look, like this is what we're sourcing our material from. And that lines up very much with a mainstream audience that is going to treat something as just a thing of the moment and laugh at a meme like that. I can
Right,
see.
that's the other thing is, are we also just on living those lives where we know the memes have died for us, right? Like there's a big dick energy joke that people have been sending around, and it's like, I can't imagine making a big dick energy joke this year. Like we did it. It's gone.
He broke his
we're
clavicle.
broke neck out here. Yeah, totally. And to Rob's point, the other thing is like, I think when I think about something like Claptrap has always been Cousin Oliver, right? That sitcom analogy makes perfect sense of like, oh, wait a second, we got a thing here. We got Claptrap. People like Claptrap. Put Claptrap in everything. Put Claptrap up front. You can play as Claptrap now. And in the game where you can get a gun that shoots guns, like, yeah, you know what? Okay, yeah, that's gonna be the ethos. It's always gonna be that thing. So I don't know. I found myself
and 3 feels like
weekend.
it's spinning its wheels in such a way that even as an outsider who's just mostly just witnessed reactions to this game, even the third one, like it took you this long to make this is, and that'll be fine for like my friend will be perfectly happy because like he's not online, he doesn't read the discourse, he's just like, cool, you made another Borderlands, it's been a while since one of those, like that's fine.
Hey,
and that's gonna be
sorry, no, you finish your thought. Come back to me because I realized something.
And I think part of like the reaction to Borderlands is a bit of like, you took this long to do this, like things have changed, like humor's changed, like our tastes have changed, and it's like, yeah, this is probably gonna be successful, but I think there was maybe, if Borderlands went away for 5+ years, you come back with, and it's like, oh, like the goalpost didn't move at all for Borderlands. Borderlands just sort of like stayed where it already was, and that may mean it's successful and do just fine for its like target audience. But I think part of the dunking is born out of like, it doesn't even seem like you tried to like move in a direction. So anyway, what was your revelation?
Speaking of the goalposts not changing, do you know what I have not fucking seen at all is gamer rage that this game is only on the fucking Epic Store.
Well, there was for a while. You missed it. It happened.
This game has twice as many concurrents as Borderlands 2 has ever had on the Epic Store. So it's like that audience did not. I mean, who knows? Maybe it would have done quadruple if it had come out on Steam.
Probably, but who knows how much Epic paid for it?
Sure,
tens of millions of dollars.
Totally.
Like who knows how much?
I'm just saying, in comparison to like the rollout of death threats for a small indie game.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like Ooblets.
It's revealing.
It's revealing.
They don't actually care about those games.
They don't actually fucking care.
This is the image from Modern Warfare 2 and the dedicated servers. Like, don't buy Modern Warfare 2 because it doesn't have dedicated servers. capture an image of that Steam club. They're all playing Modern Warfare 2 because the death threats they issue to game developers, they don't give a shit about those games. Like they weren't ever going to play them. They all wanted to play Borderlands and bought it anyway. Rob, sorry.
Well, and also there's basically never a good faith argument behind the people. Like here's a tell. Whenever someone's making personal death threats against somebody over something that doesn't seem remotely like a life or death situation, everything else can probably also be discarded because that's probably not on the level either. That's probably not a good faith position they're staking out. Like I think there's an element of I think what the dedicated servers thing is that people wanted to play Call of Duty, and when the chips were down, by God, they were going to play Call of Duty on whatever terms Activision was offering. They couldn't sort of hold the boycott together. I think with a game like Borderlands versus who gets most aggressively targeted with these death threats, with these sort of 2-minute hates over Epic Store exclusivity, I think there's a combination of, in the case of indies, sometimes there's in some of these cases, there's a visible woman involved, but also I think there's just visible people that you can reach and affect with your vitriol, and that makes it more attractive, right? Like, I can actually hurt these people because of this thing I'm mildly inconvenienced or irritated by. I can transform my irritation into someone else's nightmare. And I can see that happen, and therefore I get feedback on that, and I put that out in the world.
Totally.
You're not going to get that from Gearbox. You're just not. Like, to a degree, it's very much the yelling at, old man yells at cloud. It makes sense to do it when it's a couple indies because those are people who have names, and you can look up who they are and you can see it land. And a lot of indies tend to address things on a really personal level. They tend, when they discuss things publicly, it's not we the company, it's here's me. This is who I am. This is where this fits in
there's
my
no
life.
corporate PR to step in and be like, hey, actually, don't respond to this. We'll monitor it. Just go back and do your job. We will handle the fallout of this. It's who handles the fallout is the people who do the PR and community management, which are the people who make the game, and thus they're put in a box where they're just exposed to the toxicity at a level that you just wouldn't get otherwise.
Right. Which shout outs to those people who have to deal with that shit. We've seen that shit firsthand. It sucks. Or also you could be Randy Pitchford and just get into fights all day on Twitter. So just
why would you do what was that?
That thread? That 17 post thread I read?
Yeah, but what was that one quote? Why the fuck would you
Why would you betray me like this? Why would you betray me like this? Fuck off. God damn. God. I want to shout out a couple other small things before we move on. I want to shout out a game called, I'm not going to get the pronunciation right. Mutazione. It is a game by. It is strange that it's not what I thought this crew would make next. It is. What is the name of the company that made Johann Sebastian Joust? It's a German name. Die Gut
Fabrik or
Die Gut Fabrik.
Die Gut Fabrik is made this game called Mutazione, Mutazione, Mutazione. It is an adventure game. It is gorgeous, in which you are a human, I believe.
Yes,
and you're going to visit your grandfather, who is nearing death, who lives on an island with a bunch of cool mutants. And the vibes are there's some Wes Anderson vibes in the typography and in the cuts. There is some real Kentucky Route Zero stuff happening on the edges so far. And it is this very sweet story of this person coming to this community that she has a deep connection to, but that she doesn't really know. It's also a gardening game. I've only just barely gotten to the gardening stuff. But it's like a point-and-click adventure. You're exploring this little island. You're talking to characters. Time is progressing. People are going through little storylines about their relationships and about their aspirations in life. And all of it has incredible music. And it is it has been a very cool thing so far to kind of sit with. The music is incredible. There's such like an atmosphere to this little island. I'm super excited to put some more time into it. I don't have anything final yet, as I've played like 90 minutes or something. There's a moment in that game where you get a book filled with like information about all the plants on the island. Your grandfather basically is like leaving it to you to finish. And I was like, okay, there's probably gonna be like 7 things in here or something. And I would like flip through 7 things and realize I was still only at A. And I was like, oh shit, there's a bunch of plants on this island.
Yeah.
And that ties into the gardening, and it's very cool. I need to sit with it a lot longer because it seems like a bigger thing than what I expected it to be. I expected to like sit down and be like, oh, I'm going to knock this out in 3 hours, but it actually seems a little beefier than that in terms of what its focus is and what the way it wants me to kind of sit with it, which is cool.
I want to check out this Kind Words game.
Me too.
Like, I've seen some people talking about. People aren't aware. The short pitch is it's a game where you send anonymous confessional letters to strangers. Basically, I don't know like how it works from there, but basically it's a game of people saying like being very vulnerable and sending little notes to one another. And the couple of, and I think Patricia Hernandez was the first person I saw who wrote about it a couple of months back. I know it's gotten some write-ups. I think it's available maybe on Steam now. But it is apparently like very heartwarming and sad and like an interesting experience. So I just want to give that a shout out. I want to put it on my list to see what it's all about. But I know I've heard a lot of really positive things people are looking for. Something the opposite of a Borderlands. Kind Words sounds about like you as far away from as you could get.
It is such a the whole premise on that game is that you are receiving like letters from people about crises or struggles or just like anxieties, questions, dilemmas that they have. And you can respond to them and send them stickers, and it plays like lo-fi hip hop beats while you do. And it is a very earnest thing from what I've seen. I watched Brad Shoemaker play some of it over on Giant Bombs on Professional Fridays last week. And that stream both was like, wow, this is really cool. This is real. I get this. I would like to play this and be in this game. And also immediately revealed the like, I hope they have a good moderation system in place, which Rob was the first thing he brought up to me. Because like after 15 or 20 minutes of really cool shit, so one of the things that happens is besides sending dilemmas and responses back and forth, there are also these paper airplanes that just fly through the kind of space, and you can click on them for just like a little burst of like, encouragement. In this case, 2 of those letters nearly back to back had some really bad shit in them. So including some like virulent anti-Semitism.
Not that I want to go like blow by blow here, but I'm curious. Would there have been obvious words in those letters that like any sort of automatic
the first
filtering
one was,
would have caught?
So the first one was a reference to an anime series that sexualizes little boys, like children, and that would not get picked up by like, and it wasn't it was not the note itself didn't. The note was like. It's like to trick you into Googling it and be like, gotcha, you looked up this thing that you probably don't have any interest in personally. And then the second one was straight up like anti-Semitic classic stereotypes around what it was basically like the Jews control the world, right? It was basically like Jews control the media and banks and blah, 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 blah. And like you should probably, if I was designing this game, I would make it so that you probably shouldn't be able to. You can probably type that and hit send, but you would make it that I would never see it. The other player would never see it, or the world would never see it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like, yes, can I conceive of questions that are? It's tough. It's like I can conceive of someone being like, I'm Jewish, and I've dealt with a lot of anti-Semitism lately. I would love to get some like anonymous encouragement or thoughts from the world about the fact that I do this. But it's so hard to imagine anything other than manual moderators knowing how to find that nuance, which is a conversation we've had on this podcast before. It's a conversation that they've had over at Motherboard a lot, both on Cyber and just like in general Motherboard's coverage. Like moderation is a difficult thing, and figuring out like classifying sentiment specifically as to like, oh, is this a genuine question or is this like some fucking gross shit is a difficult thing for machine learning or for automatic filters to do. So yeah, like it is definitely a frustrating thing to think like, oh, this thing has such the potential for brightness. You're just watching that stream, seeing Brad just be so like joyous about the experience, minus those two moments, obviously.
Right.
Was like, yeah, this has a place in people's lives. Like this style of thing, I want this to be there. Also, and you can report messages like it is not like there's no mechanism there, but it's not very transparent in terms of like what happens when someone gets reported. Is that just like a flag? Does it pull a message out of the way? And then more importantly, the thing that is so tough for me about it is I mean, in some ways this is like very apropos in that the people who are most likely to be harmed by striking that material are the ones who are most eager for this sort of thing. Like the folks who are like, I really fucking need this, are the ones who have to do the labor of like, and this is a thing this is a landmine someone else could step on. Let me report this. Whereas like if you're in that zone where you're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna dip in for like some cool messages, you might be in that space where that thing comes by and you're like, ugh, this fucking sucks. Next, but like, yeah, next for you is easy. Whereas for the person who was like already fucking down on themselves right then, who like hits that slur, is like, oh, this is the worst. This is the last thing I wanted. Or worse, sends out a message and gets a response that is hostile or shaming or is giving the sort of like quote unquote well-intentioned advice that actually just makes someone feel worse, right? That's the things like
right.
That's
this is like the nightmare of like post secret, like someone can talk back to you through post secret or something like that.
Totally.
Yeah. And this is the thing that really made me nervous when I saw that was one of the cool things about like things we've seen like that where people open up anonymously and get good feedback that is very affirming. But that becomes a very different thing when it's just into the flood, like when the floodgates are open. And that's what really scared me about that game is for me, that is a cute curiosity. Oh, cool. I can just like write, like I can see cute things and send nice messages while listening to chill lo-fi hip hop beats. That's basically how I roll in my apartment sometimes too. So, it's not that different, but like on the day when I really need that game, when I really need that boost, I don't want to be worrying about, I clicked on it and it's like, oh, right. The world is horrible and full of people who like will not just say something shitty, but like try to do it in the most malicious and insidious way possible.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's also just like, it's a $5 game on Steam. So it's like that barrier of entry to be a fucking troll is not that high. It is not one of those things where it's like, oh, no one's going to spend $50 to blah, blah, blah to do this. I mean, people would anyway. That's the world we live in. But I am still gonna try to check it out and see like what that feels like. My weird hope is that it leaves the public consciousness pretty quickly. My hope is it's successful.
This is the kind of thing where it's like you want to mention it, people that need it can gravitate to it, and that everyone else just moves along because it's not sustainable for it to
blow up
popular.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
it's like that stand-up comedy game. Do you remember that thing? Where it was like an open mic style thing. There was a game where it was like basically like a room. It was like a not CG, but like, 3D polygonal room. Yeah. And then you could get on a microphone and just do open mic sets. And of course, the premise behind it was people were like, oh, wow. Today we could, with sort of like voice syncing technology and lip syncing technology, we could just like have like a cool, character up on a stage doing a live set, and someone could just do their, practice their type 5 or whatever. And the answer, of course, was like, no, people are going to get up there and just read through a list of slurs. People are going to get up there and say the most vile shit to an audience who's hooting and hollering because it's filled with people who also want to do that. And 3 people who are there earnestly who want to genuinely tell jokes. And so, it's hard to know when one of these things will become a vector for people who want to use it in the most malign way.
Well, it feels similar to like when you write about a cool fan project, and then as a result of your article, they get a cease and desist, and it's like this weird like situation to be in. And you'll notice this like every time there's like a Kotaku piece, especially if it's like at a Kotaku or like a really high profile piece. Where it's like, why'd you write about this cool thing? It's like, so you know about the cool thing. It's like, I know, but you just killed the cool thing. Which is like, I mean, what are you supposed to do? You know, you find a cool story, you share it. That's not, you know, it's not on you to control like Nintendo's, you know, aggressive, you know, cease and desist policies. But it feels similar in the same vein of just like, how do we get it so that people know about a thing without unleashing the negative consequences that can sometimes go along with
The
that?
Yahoo free anime train. As it were.
We're owning that. We're owning that one. We feel like we took that one down.
Yeah, it's on us, I think.
We talked about it. It died. Like,
Yeah. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Anything else this week? I got one question here in the question bucket that I'm curious about because
Sure.
I'm
what's up?
sad to report
Oh,
for the first time in 5 years. Yeah, 5 years.
5 years. What's
I will
happening?
not be getting a
he
Destiny
didn't get the
t-shirt.
Destiny shirt.
You didn't get the shirt.
I didn't get the Destiny shirt.
First, I thought it was gonna be like, oh, the recording is busted. We lost the entire show.
I know.
I found
Oh
a new
my God.
card-based
Can
card.
we-
Like,
time
I want
out.
to mention.
He didn't get
Do
the
you
shirt.
remember fucking E3, Kato?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember the Kato that we had at E3 where constantly Kato would just be like, oh, I'm like, what happened? You're like, oh, nothing. I just thought about a nice looking fox. And I'm like, what are you why did you make a sigh like everything was on fire? Or you'd be like, oh no. And I'm like, oh, what's up? What's up, Kato? And he's like, I forgot to get a burrito.
I got an itch on my arm, and I need to scratch it.
You were absolutely
Every day was like that doctor in Arrested Development.
Exactly. It was-
We lost him.
I feel like a third of those times it was something breaking.
Well, that was the problem. When there was enough real problems.
But it also wasn't clear when that was happening either,
No.
Kato. It was like you hear just like a little like snicker or something.
so
Like
good.
what happened? Oh, stream's dead and we lost the last 10 minutes of recording. It's like
But
that seemed bad.
I love it.
Great.
That's the gallows humor we need around here.
Excellent.
So wait,
glad.
so which t-shirt
was it a cool
this?
Destiny shirt?
Yeah, was this a Moments of
Desert?
Triumph shirt? What was this?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the Moments of Triumph, what they do basically every year. After you do a bunch of
I'm
things.
Googling the shirt. I want to see like what's the new one.
Is it
I
this
think it's all right.
burgundy one?
Yeah, the burgundy one's
Wait,
the one
holy
this year.
shit.
That's a cool shirt.
Kato.
What?
You ever heard of this site called ebay.com?
I was thinking the same thing, but there's a thing. There's a problem. It puts your gamer tag
On the
on the
arm.
shirt.
Okay.
Gross.
Okay.
I know this is I'm looking at a logo and it says your gamer tag here.
Yeah.
All right. Kato,
There, yeah.
do you feel you deserved it?
Ooh.
Yes. Here's the thing. Hold on.
Can we just buy him the shirt?
No, we can't. Money can't buy this, Austin. That's very fucking clear. This is like
I
some
fucked
things
up.
you can't buy.
I fucked up.
It doesn't
So-
matter if you're a whale.
Yeah.
This is for players.
Right.
I mean, it's technically listed for $7,777,777.77 That was too many sevens.
All
but
right. Time to
Fucking
start up our
GoFundMe.
fucking GoFundMe. People have been asking for a subscription option for a long time here at Waypoint. We don't have
Buy
that.
Kato
But
the
what we do
shirt.
have is Buy Kato the Shirt Fund.
Yeah, and the way that usually works, it feels like the moments of triumph are things that you've done over the course of that year.
Right.
And they were mostly, I got to 11 out of 15 required for the shirt. And those last four,
Right.
none of those are things that I could do in the last week when I was like checking in. It's like, oh, I've done most of this.
What were those things? Are those things
was-
that were like doable generally for you?
Yeah, if I had known like a month ago, maybe, and like kept at it, but I was playing Iceborne.
Welcome to the reviewer's life.
Yeah.
Let me tell you this, Kato. No more free t-shirts. Let me tell you.
It's not a free t-shirt.
What?
You unlock the chance to buy it.
You unlock.
Yeah.
How much is it?
It's like $30
Okay,
because
it's like a
they
t-shirt price.
because they like
Okay.
do the thing. They do the customization,
The shirt
right?
Yeah.
It's,
It's only your gamer tag that's customized, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have like bespoke heraldry for your particular
that'd be
moments
sick.
of triumph.
no. The
A bit
heraldry
like when you
is for
started
that
Destiny
year.
2 and it had that trip down memory
Yeah,
lane
yeah,
for
yeah.
Destiny
That was
1. It was like, here's the things you did.
That was
And
great
it
'cause I
like,
got
my
all of
God,
them,
what
too.
memories. Yeah, it was incredible. It reminded me how good Destiny 1 was by
Yeah.
the end. And
We're getting there with
Yeah,
2.
set a high bar.
I'm gonna fucking play that game.
Yes, please.
Every week I say I want to
Love
play
to
it.
slowly claw back to where the Taken King was.
Taken King
Like,
was
boy,
so
someday this game's gonna be as good as it was after the Taken King,
Look, I think
came out, right?
Forsaken
Yeah,
was
this
a
is the
Taken
one.
King moment. I think
Forsaken
it
was
was
as good
Yeah.
as Taken King was.
Absolutely, especially if you were there week 2. Here's the weird thing about it: it's like you had to be there a little bit with the way that they changed the way they dripped out like story content after the like initial campaign. Like there was continual week to week like here's a new story bit, and like if you kept up, you were rewarded with like really cool lore stuff, and like not even just like here's backstory lore stuff, like here's shit happening in the world as it continues to exist.
Does that also seem problematic though? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
not problematic in the capital P problematic sense that we sometimes use it, but more in the like, what about me, Kato?
Yes.
What about me, the Destiny curious
Absolutely.
friend who's like, I love Destiny. I'm a friend of Destiny from way back.
well, that's
We go
that's
back.
the trick, right?
But
that's the fucking trick.
I
It's
missed
like
some crucial steps, and now I can't get the train is gone. It
no,
left the
you
platform.
can't. You can't. So you better get on it now, so you don't miss the stuff coming up.
No, I'm just gonna walk.
That's the shit
I'm not gonna get on a train.
that they're trying to fucking do.
Yeah.
It's
I'm gonna log in there, and I'm gonna be like, "What do you mean, Cade's gone?
Right.
I've still got story quests I'm getting from
not
him."
only is Cade gone, but spoilers. Other spoilers. If you care about Destiny, I guess fucking Uldren got shot at the end of that campaign, right?
That's
Ultron?
Petra's brother. Ultron.
Uldren.
I hated that
Pet-
guy.
That guy fucking sucked.
Guess what? He's back. He's a guardian.
See, this
Like
is there's a
3
lot
months
going
later,
on.
they fucking
Is he
ghost.
still talking to his ghost sister or whatever? Is she still around? Is that the person I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, she's
Queen
back. She's
Marisov?
real.
Oh,
She's real.
Marisov
That
is-
wasn't her in the campaign.
Okay.
That was a Ahamkara. That was a Wish
Oh,
Dragon.
of course, a wish dragon. One
You
of those
know.
fucking wish dragons.
Fucking
every
Wish
time,
Dragons every
man.
time. Yo,
Destiny has some cool
Destiny's
lore.
got some cool fucking lore.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they're diving into it. It's
Well,
good.
thank you for catching us up on the t-shirt.
I'm gonna show up to the Dreaming City. It's gonna be a ghost town, and I'll be like, I guess I missed the days when this place was happening.
Probably.
Link is there now, so you'll still have Link around for you. We're dreaming, but
Just infinite regress.
who is the dreamer? As
Yeah.
Twin Peaks asked us. Anything else?
I'm pretty sure the Grimoires asked that question.
Oh,
too.
100%. Here's the question. There's the one question that came into the question bucket that we have time for today. This one comes in from Terrell from Pennsylvania, who writes, you have a question, you can send it in, question bucket, gaming@vice.com. Hey everyone, so far this year I've only purchased one actual game, Resident Evil 2, and the remainder of the games I've played have been through Xbox Game Pass. This led me think to myself, if I had to rate Game Pass for all of 2019 as if it were a game, how would I rate it? This year, I've played Monster Hunter World, Metal Gear Solid 5, Resident Evil 4, Dead Cells, Devil May Cry 5, and most recently Gears 5, all thanks to Game Pass, all of which are worth the $10 a month that I pay. But should I hold the bad games on Game Pass against it, since they are indeed part of the service? Should I rate the service knowing the third-party games
come
will
on.
leave it at some point? Well, the second part is, should I rate the service knowing that the third-party games will leave it at some point? With subscription services becoming more prevalent, should the industry begin reviewing them as products, much like an MMO or an ongoing game? What metrics do you believe should be used to review Stadia / Xbox Game Pass / etc. beyond a simple you should / shouldn't get it? Quick note: Stadia is not this. I know we all think Stadia is this. Stadia is not Game Pass. You buy games on Stadia.
Yeah.
It is not a library.
They will almost assuredly offer something like that once they have a broader library
yes.
to even pull from. But at launch, it is going to be, that still happens this year, right?
That still happens soonish.
Wait, this year?
This year, Stadia is out. Yeah.
Fuck.
Totally for founders only.
Well, it's
Play
the
like a
soft
founder
launch.
plays.
It's like,
Right.
eventually you won't have to own any hardware to do it. They are forcing you to pay for hardware in order to be part of the early
beta tester.
Yeah.
Here's what I think about this, Terrell. You should rate it for what you play on it. And in terms of should I keep paying for it? Should be what you play on it. To your
If
point
you're
about,
getting enough out of it.
yeah. You should not count bad games against it, but what you should also not do is count good games you're not actually playing for it. Because if you're paying that $10 a month, if
That's
you're
how
paying
subscription services work, though. Like,
and I'm saying cancel
subscribe
that
to
shit.
something,
Yeah.
going like, well, I could,
Cancel it.
I should have canceled Game Pass.
Are you actually the person that does
ago.
that? I feel like you've got like 7 subscriptions going.
Me? Yeah, of course I do. What do you want to know about?
I just keep adding them.
Listen, I can watch Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans on like 5 different things at this point.
Great.
Okay. So
Have you seen all the
got
incredible
High
things
Dive?
the Criterion
I got
Channel
High Dive.
offers that I haven't watched?
Yeah, I got High Dive. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got Criterion. Yeah, I'm on that Hulu. I'm about to
Criterion
cut a
release
bunch
a fucking Xbox and PlayStation app. Jesus Christ.
Fucking
This,
don't you know where the audience is?
Yeah.
Gamers love classic movies.
the same friend that I'm playing Borderlands with, he said, I told him to sign up for Game Pass like some months back. I was like, just take a look. Like, I think you'd be into it. You'd be able to try some different games. And he did. He's really liked it ever since. But then we were watching the Bears game and like there was a Gears 5 commercial. I was like, oh, did you play that yet? You know, like it's pretty good. Even if you haven't played a Gears game before. He's like, I don't want to pay $60 for it. I was like, nah, that shit's on Game Pass. He's like, that game just came out. There's even a mental model framework that not everyone I think is quite internalized. Like it's easy for us to be like, oh wow, Gears 5, like they added that was messaged, but I think it's like fully reasonable for like an average person to think, oh, brand new big marquee game. I'm not that interested in it, you know, like it's not going to be on their subscription service. And I was like, nah, dude, like that game is, and Halo Infinite next year. That's all of Microsoft stuff is going to be on there going forward. And like, he was like, all right, I'm going to go home and download it. And he did, and then texted me about it. And it's just like, I saw some bit that was like, Gears 5 has like led to like some incredible spike in subscriptions. What does that mean? I don't know.
Right.
We don't have the numbers to, but it wouldn't shock me. Like, it's basically, do you want to pay 10, you know, what Ultimate's what, $15 a month? Yeah. And then regular Game Pass is 10.
Yep.
That's, if you just think of it as a rental, like, would you pay $15 to rent Gears 5 and play the campaign and like a month's worth of multiplayer? Like, yeah, that sounds pretty damn good.
Or here's something else you could do.
Yeah.
You could get on there and be like, oh shit, Gears 5 is out. Then you realize, damn, I'm totally behind on Gears. I don't remember where things are at the start of Gears 5. Oh, what's this? Gears of War Ultimate Edition?
Right.
Start the iconic franchise over from the beginning with a new remaster. I better do that and play the 4 other games between it and Gears 5. And then I'll be able to appreciate Gears 5 the way it was meant to be appreciated.
Is that what you're doing?
I'll have time for that.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. You'll sneak it in.
Austin and I got as far as installing Gears 1.
I knew that was a real story. I knew it was a real story. I knew it. It sounded too...
God.
Listen.
I had to make my Krummets.
I was to say, you had Krummets to make. So...
And those are good, like, you know, I don't know how they hold up necessarily, but like, those are good weekend games. Like, you know, just a lazy weekend playing through a Gears game. Like, there are worse things to do.
There are. I almost fell down a BattleTech hole this weekend and stopped that by playing Zone of the Enders instead. So it happens.
Outer Wilds.
Good game.
Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh, so you're just listing.
You just installed
You're
games.
listing things you've installed recently. That's our new segment. What have you installed?
That's the point of these services.
Yeah.
It's not. It's like browsing a bookstore and buying books, but now you don't even have physical space. You're just like, I'm going to play this, and I'm going to imagine the life where I played that. I'm not going to live that life. But for this moment,
my friend, he's like, oh, I can install Gears 5. And I was like, that's probably a lot of space. He immediately went on Amazon and bought a 2 terabyte external drive. I was like, you don't have time to play. He's like, yeah, but like, it's not going to. Okay. All right.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah. Good. You're not wrong. It won't fit, but I don't know if the response was just to go spend $60 on a, fine. Hey, you do you know?
Oh, fuck.
It's a good service.
Yeah. They announced a Virtual On collection that I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
It's
Did
not
you
gonna
see
come
that
out
fucking
here.
joystick?
No, does it have the dual?
Yeah, it's $400
Those sticks
that I don't have that I want to spend.
Buying it. I'm not spending $400 on a joystick for a game that's not getting localized.
what is happening to Kato?
Yeah, what are the noises?
Hold on. This arcade
This is
game, I
like-
don't know what the fuck happened, but for some
Kato,
reason...
Somebody need to reset Kato?
That was some Red Hood shit. Where like, oh no, he fell into the Ace Chemical vat, and now he's twisted.
I just really love the Virtual On control scheme with the
great.
2 joysticks. It always felt really good. I was lucky enough to be blessed with an arcade that had the linked cabinets.
Right.
Fucking love that game as a kid, and it just doesn't feel the same on analog sticks. I feel like
It doesn't.
so. Like seeing that joystick, I was like,
The joysticks.
finally.
So that game is 2 joysticks, like 2 tall vertical, like
like
joystick,
flight sticks
like a flight
almost.
stick, almost
Yeah.
a little more thin than that.
Yeah.
And the way it works is that depending on how you move them, you do different things. So if you put both of them forward, you'll move forward.
If you've ever played Katamari, imagine that.
It's like Katamari, except big joysticks.
Yeah.
And like you jump by moving them outwards.
Yeah.
You land quickly by moving them inwards. So it feels like you're moving around a big mech, even though that's a very fast-paced game for most of those machines.
Yeah.
Which is like the thing that makes it really cool is that despite having this like feeling of like big hefty controls, you're zipping around.
Is it kind of like this?
Virtual on.
Was it kind of, let me take a look here.
This is an old story.
That is exactly those joysticks are exactly it. I almost imported those joysticks years ago and then didn't because I convinced myself.
People pay money for that?
Yeah, dude. $300 money.
The new ones
How
are
much did you
better.
pay-
They've got like
How much
trigger
did you pay for
buttons and,
your mech, your Nintendo Switch mech controller?
Oh, that's like nothing. That was like $30 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
all right.
that thing. It hasn't shown up yet. It's still. I did play some more of that too. I played some of the multiplayer in that and had a pretty good time. I think that like the big bosses are not as. I think I had more fun playing against the big bosses in single player because you're just have less cohesion as a unit. It's like a group of mechs fighting those big bosses. Whereas like with a group, it's just kind of a stomp. I liked fighting the like mech versus mech stuff though in the co-op. I'm really excited for them to add a competitive into the Daemon X Machina multiplayer. But yeah, I think that's.
I want to play virtual on now.
Listen, we can make that happen.
I know it's so close.
No, I just mean we could. It's on Xbox 360. That's on Xbox One.
No. I'm talking about arcade.
Where's the closest arcade with it?
It's literally there. The barcade.
That barcade has it?
It has it.
How far away is that? We could do that today. I have to go
that's
take
like-
care of cats today, but we could do it this week.
Yeah.
We could play some virtual on.
Play some
Kato.
virtual on.
That shit could happen.
Hell yeah.
Kato and I are going to go do that.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
This week, Patrick and Rob, what do you got going on this week? Anything people
open
should
for lunch.
look forward to? We can't go to barcade for lunch. We got meetings and shit today.
Oh, they don't sell food at that barcade either.
Was it BYOF?
Yeah.
Boyf?
Boyf.
Boy,
The other
you.
ones on Manhattan. The two on Manhattan sell food.
Okay.
This one doesn't.
Yeah. Anything going on for y'all? Link's Awakening review will be coming later this week, presumably.
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish the final dungeon of that after we do finish this podcast, and then I'll have a review on Thursday.
Hell yeah.
I got to go in a car for 6 hours with a 3-year-old.
Ooh.
on Thursday.
Sounds like
also.
fun.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Going to a wedding in Ohio, and it's close. It's far enough that I looked up how much it costs to fly. Because even though that would take more time in the day, it's just the convenience of just showing up to a place is great. But you got to pay for, she's 3. You have to pay for a seat, and it's just that's like I can fill up my tank 2.5 times to get there, split between 5 people who will be in the car,
Yeah,
or
there you
I
go.
can pay $200
Bucks
a pop.
Yeah. That's
to
not
get
worth
5
it.
people
with
there, and that
with
doesn't
5 other
make any
people though,
sense.
like you'll have plenty of people to like bother and play with.
It's less that it's just long. 6 hours.
6 hours
It is
is
long.
long.
I don't.
It is long.
Like I don't mind driving. Like I don't mind long drives, but like even my interest in like a long drive caps out at like 4 hours.
I
Yeah.
would
And then-
love to do that drive by myself with some podcasts. 5 hours
Sure.
or like 6 hours in a car with 5 people is one of those things where it's like I'm going to run out of conversation by hour 3 and like it's going to drag and I'm not going to
Well, and there's no, and because Jessica's in the car, it's not like you get like, all right, cool. This car is shutting down the social layer. Like we're all
Right.
just gonna do our own thing. Like person driving the car is maybe gonna put on their headphones and not expose everyone to whatever audiobook. Like
Wait, the
everyone's just
person
gonna
driving-
They got to hear the
Hold
other
on.
the
traffic.
car is going to
Drive-
put in headphones?
You can't put on headphones driving
Patrick.
the car, man.
That's
I didn't do that. I'm just everyone's
Patrick,
having a
you have a
meltdown over
3-year-old.
this.
there's a child in that car.
Don't put on headphones.
All I'm suggesting is that everyone goes into their I'm going to pay attention to my own thing. You can't do that with the 3-year-old.
Right.
Everyone she breaks the social layer very quickly.
I see.
Gotcha.
Well, good luck.
It'll be fine.
Rob,
Rob, to the
you-
zoo on Friday.
Oh, that's nice. Zoos are nice. Rob, you going to the zoo? You doing anything else this week? Making some more bread?
I am making the Bon Appetit best bread recipe.
Oh my god.
Good. Good.
You're gonna chronicle this? Can you do a live stream?
Believe
Twitch,
yourself.
Switch IRL.
I so badly
I have a
want
starter ready to go,
live stream.
actually.
I so
Oh, it's a
badly-
sourdough?
No, it's like I'm using a Poolish.
Okay.
So it's not a proper sourdough.
It might turn into a sourdough by the end of it, though. You never know with Rob's breads.
You know, that'd be a win, honestly. Sourdoughs are hard.
I'm wondering if I could get some wild yeast just by leaving some starter stuff by the window.
Yeah.
Wild yeast. I feel like I found that in Breath of the Wild. I need it. Before I go into this dungeon, I need
wild
to.
yeast.
No, I mean, that's the thing. It's all around us, Patrick.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's
the
in
wild
the air.
yeast is everywhere. But there's other things that you don't want also in the air. So the trick is getting that good yeast and like leaving the car exhaust out of your starter. Yeah. That's the real art.
It's a trick.
Of so I misread that recipe. I thought it was like, oh, you mix it together and then there's a half hour of like tending the dough and then you just like chill it for a couple days to a slow rise. Dunzo, don't worry about it. No. There is a half hour step that you repeat like 6 times every 30 minutes or an hour, it seems like. And then, and only then, do you rest the dough for a couple days.
Right.
So it seems like one of those things that this is a learning loaf. And when it's done,
I know about that.
A learning loaf.
I love it.
I've had so many.
Sometimes you just got to take the L.
Take the L.
I don't think I've ever had a non-learning loaf personally.
You know what? Every loaf can be a learning loaf.
Yeah. Learning loaf for life.
Someone take the reading rainbow theme and just put on.
Exactly. Well,
see, the problem I ended up in is like I got really good at making baguettes, but once you've solved that problem, it's not real interesting. And baguettes aren't super good for you. It's not like a good whole grain bread.
Sure.
Like it's a really fancy way to ingest. Basically, something's gonna hit your body like sugar.
Right.
So, mind you, fresh baguette, like slather that in butter or cheese. Oh, it's delicious. But like, if you get to a point where like I can make baguettes on demand. You can, yes, but should you?
Right.
Is a
you
different
also
is
put
a different
spoon
question.
Into a bag of sugar. You could do a lot of things.
Right. Exactly.
You could deep fry butter. That's a thing. People do it.
People do it.
Well, we look forward to your continuing bread stories, Rob. If you have questions about bread, you can send them to gaming@vice.com. Use the subject learning loaf.
Wait, what are the I Am Bread people are making something.
Are they?
Yeah.
Is that who made that game?
I'm trying to
I
find
Am
out.
Strata, the sequel.
Oh, Bossa Studios. They're making.
Someone's gonna laugh at that.
I did.
Someone's gonna hear that and be like, Strata, great sequel.
They are making.
What was it?
What are they making?
I was surprised. I was like,
I was also. I remember being like, oh, them.
oh, them.
They're making this, but I don't remember what it is.
I don't see it.
Me either. Did we invent this?
No, this is real. This is real. I swear. It was in my fucking email.
It's not the thing I'm looking
Bossa.
at.
Didn't somebody message us about the KR0 hotline updating its message?
Oh, did it?
Yeah, like that it's in cert. Or
This
something.
this is why I remember this, because I looked at it and it was like, huh. Why does this immediately remind me of Control? It's something called the Bradwell conspiracy.
And that's being made by the I Am Bread people?
That's by the I Am Bread people.
Gotcha.
But it
Bradwell or Breadwell?
Bradwell.
The Breadwell people.
The Breadwell
Okay,
conspiracy.
so it's not like a little play on like
Yeah, right. No, it's not.
wink, wink.
But it looks very much like it could take place in Control's world. At least like some of the vibes I was getting from the trailer. But I just suddenly had a flashback to that because I remember because we were talking about bread.
Right. I can't find the old KRZ phone number. I have the one that's like for
The new one? The recent one?
The thing that is not the full interlude that you play through. Here it is. I got it. We got it. I'm going to put this on. We'll go out on this.
All right.
1-858 when KRZ WHEN KRZ. Let's call this. Let's take a listen.
Thank you for calling the Kentucky Route Zero Development Status Hotline.
Yeah.
This is a
Please
great
listen
service.
To the following as our options have changed.
Oh, new options.
Oh, good to know.
To hear an update on the status of Kentucky Route Zero,
Yeah.
press 0.
0.
Your call is important to us.
Good.
Please stay on the line.
Bummed about the Eagles, guys.
It was a rough game.
Status of Kentucky Route Zero is quality assurance testing.
Huh, that's new.
Hear this
That is new.
again.
Quality assurance testing. That's good.
Good.
That used to be in development.
In development.
Now it's quality
Quality
assurance
assurance.
testing, which I think everyone needs to do that with everything that they make.
Do that for your
Otherwise,
life.
you end up with Krummets.
Otherwise, you end up with Krummets. You got to make sure that millimeter is not. It needs to be a little bit lower. Thank you for listening to us. We'll be back later this week with more Waypoint Radio. You find me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. Kato.
Beep, 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 beep. Warner Brothers Animation planning Funko Pop movie.
Fuck.
Why do we do
Go Pop.
anything? Why? Who's gonna? Is it just gonna? It's just a Lego Batman movie, but with Funko Pop.
Yep.
Their fresh take on pop culture makes these figurines incredibly appealing to fans of all ages.
Fuck.
We're thrilled for this opportunity and are committed to make an amazing Funko movie.
Release the
on
Snyder
its own
cut
merit.
of the Funko Pop movie immediately.
This isn't about selling toys or building a brand.
Shut the fuck up.
Team of
Perish
Warner
the
Animation
thought.
Group
Excuse
have
me?
a unique vision. Hold on, let me just listen to the full quote. This isn't about selling toys or building a brand. The team at Warner Animation Group have a unique vision of what the first film should be, and we are extremely
film.
excited to take this journey alongside them.
Fucking implications there.
This was apparently previously announced.
Hey,
as
look, Mitch G in the comments of this Deadline article says, can't wait to see it. Mitch, I hope this
wait.
movie turns out well for you.
Yeah. Can't wait. What? Who's attached?
Funko.
Warner Brothers Animation Group.
Nothing but respect for the craft and the anonymous artists who generate it out of thin air.
I love it when a product appears on store shelves. I love it more when it has big dead eyes. Fucking.
It makes me so mad because Funko gets all these licenses, and I just want the design to be anything but.
Anything. Anything. I am reading these quotes.
Just get really into
Is
them
it still a
toys. Them
speculative
toys are great.
economy? Like, nobody actually likes that shit, right? Like, nobody
no, I
looks
think
at that
it's
and like,
real.
ah,
People
that's
like
my...
it.
I think they
No,
move,
it's
they
no,
move
it's
product.
Rob. It's real.
Yeah.
I have a couple of friends that their Facebook updates a lot of Funko Pop.
There was that
And they're not selling them.
contract. There was that contract between a husband and his wife about how many Funkos he could
What?
buy.
Oh,
Yeah, that
yeah,
made
I
the rounds.
remember
You remember that? Yeah.
I do remember that.
This is from earlier this year. January was when news of this first started leaking out a little bit. The Slash Film reported that Warner Bros. Animation was working on this back in January, which is weird that this is only now just kind of being confirmed, I guess. Here's the quote from this Slash Film article. Plot details are scarce, but
Yeah, I bet.
the Funko movie will reportedly center around Wonder Woman, the Care Bears, Hellboy, Deadpool, Hello Kitty, Harley Quinn, Darth Vader, and My Little Pony. I'd like to read that as a joke, but I actually don't know. Crossovers. Listen, crossovers are here to stay. AUs, they're in.
The
Listen.
most ambitious crossover of all time.
Yeah, in Funko history. The most ambitious crossover since the GameStop back shelf. Whew. Well, we got that to look forward to. Patrick, you can find Patrick tweeting about the Funko movie at.
Look at this Funko. I just put it in the podcast.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me click
All
over
right.
here. Let me click over here. Waypoint.
There was one Funko where the eyes
I
were
love
of
it.
something that had dead eyes already, and it was like, oh, that works.
It was not. Was it this thing of Donkey?
Jesus
from
Christ!
Shrek. That's so funny. It's not.
You know what? I will say this one is pretty. This one is actually all right. This one kind of works.
Oh, that Nemesis one works. That Nemesis one
Basically
works.
the same one. That's, yeah, yeah.
Is
Soulblight
that Donkey
looks good
again?
there.
Is that a different angle?
God damn it!
Donkey looks good.
See,
here.
yeah, the Nemesis one
Nemesis
works.
works.
I think it was the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. That's what it was.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Creatures.
Creatures with dead eyes.
Creatures with a Z is the name of my new toy line competing with Funko Pop. Patrick Klepek at Patrick Klepek. Rob Zachney at Rob Zachney. Follow everything we do, twitter.com/waypoint, waypoint.vice.com. Shout outs to Bowen for letting us use the track Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that, waypoint.zone/BOEN.
I'm at _Clado_appears.
Thank you, Kato. Send us your favorite Funko Pop this week so that we can talk about them live on air.
Please don't send us Funko.
You get
Send
one each.
me
You're allowed to
Funko
send
Pops.
one Funko Pop.
What
Not
each?
an
The actual model.
not the model.
Not
Not
the picture. It's got to be the model.
Is Funko Pop what Joe Biden was talking about over the weekend?
Yeah, that was fun. Did you hear they found out Funko Pop was real? They found, sadly, an obit, which is not what I was looking for. I was mostly looking forward to people noting the weird racist undertones of so much of what Joe Biden says these days.
Yeah. What he was saying, the problem was not the name of
No.
a person who may or may not existed.
God.
Anyway.
That's going to do it for us. I hope you all have a good Funko Pop-filled week. You enjoy your Krummets and treat each other kindly. Peace. We should do a time.is so I can congrats you on Mike for the Bears win yesterday also.
Thank you. Well, we do it at the end.
Oh, is it the end? Okay.
That's post-pod. Post-pod.
Post-pod.
Okay.
I mean, you can mention it. We can just
Yeah. I'll mention it at the top.
We'll mention that we'll right back around to it at the
At the end. All right.
All right, I'm ready.
23. Kato, I was getting a buzz for a second there, but my thing is on airplane. Are you on airplane?
No, I'm not. That's probably me.
Oh, yeah, okay. Gotcha.
Solved.
Science solved it.
Water.
Water's good.
Whatever happened to Science Solved It?
I don't know.
Was that Kaylee's joint?
I have no clue. I just know it existed.
It did exist. I guess Cyber is the Motherboard podcast now, right? So
Yeah.
264, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Just 5 more.
What?
Then we're done?
Then we're done. Don't put that energy into the fucking
Sorry.
air
It's
right
just-
now,
No,
Kato.
add 5 to it.
Oh yeah, 269. I got you.
Okay.
My favorite Latin verb. This is 260 is 69re is the infinitive form.
Huh.
Yeah. Uh-huh.